You don't know the law. Yeah, there's laws. You shouldn't be trying to steal my house. Yes, you are. You don't even have
It is one of the squatter stories we brought you that outraged our viewers. You can't break into a home that does not belong to you and claim you have a right to be there. That is the message from the Queens District Attorney after prosecuting the man at the center of a 7 on Your Side investigation.
10 months after our story first aired, the squatter pleaded guilty and is now facing years behind bars.
The winds of change are in fact blowing across the United States of America, and by the way, those winds of change are felt even in places like the city of New York, because guess what? One of the squatters that we covered on this channel that was first highlighted by 7 Eyewitness News, which is the local news affiliate of ABC right here in New York City, has been convicted of actually stealing a home, and guess what? He is going to serve 2 years in prison for this violation. And if you'll recall, back in the day when we originally covered this story, the homeowner was the one who was subject to arrest due to the fact that squatter-landlord issues are considered to be civil matters, or were considered to be civil matters, while of course you trying to illegally evict somebody, according to New York State's crazy-ass law at the time, that was actually considered to be a criminal issue.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
I'm being arrested.
For what?
For being in my own home.
And where's your lease?
She's fighting the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed is current and legal.
Arrested for unlawful eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there.
So we had an instance where a woman lost her own home. It was a home that belonged to a relative who had since passed away. A man broke in the middle of the night. He was trying to extort her for money. And guess what? He ultimately ended up facing jail time because the law was changed. And this guy is not actually allowed to steal people's property, which is fantastic. It's wonderful. The only people who are heartbroken are those at the Majority Report who actually defend these squatting schemes because they're absolute scum over there.
There's no actual squatters' rights in New York, at least. There should be, but
to the extent that it exists anywhere, it's because the alternative is brutality that people actually can't fathom, even in bygone years. That's why squatters' laws exist in England or whatever. It's because otherwise you just can't. Because we're so used to enforcing, bending society towards the capitalist needs now that we can't even fathom how these sorts of rights could have ever been enshrined for people that just need shelter.
I mean, even the phrasing, squatters versus tenants' rights, but they're one and the same. It's just one is used to say, look at this delinquent over here.
But everybody else in the sensible world is happy and able to cheer the fact that this criminal has finally been held accountable. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to remind you that DebateCon 5 is happening February 15th and February 16th. I will be debating on the 16th. Link to tickets in the top of the description. It is in Newark, New Jersey. I will be happy to see any of you that will come out to this event.
David and Liz, our investigation first led to changes in New York state law. Now the man at the center of it all is expected to be sentenced to 2 years in prison.
Brian Rodriguez took a plea deal, pleading guilty to falsely reporting an incident in the second degree, a felony. As part of the deal, prosecutors say he won't only be spending 2 years behind bars, but also 5 years of supervised release. Rodriguez is the man at the center of the squatter standoff we captured on camera.
This guy just forced himself into my house. No, he did not. Yes, he did. And so did you. You broke through the front door.
Officer.
Prosecutors say Rodriguez broke into Adele Andaloro's home in Flushing, Queens, changed the front door lock, and rented out rooms to other people. When Andaloro confronted him, police took her away in handcuffs. Rodriguez claimed he had a lease and a right to be there. He did not.
So the local news gives a very quick summary of the details of the original case, but I want to give you guys a bit of a more refresher if you don't remember those details, so let me just go through them really quickly. So we have 47-year-old Adele Andaloro, who was arrested for changing the locks last month on a $1 million home in Flushing that she says that she inherited from her parents when they died. Now, the trouble actually started when she decided that she was going to sell this particular property, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, according to neighbors, a man called Brian Rodriguez broke into the home, changed the locks on it, and decided to rent out multiple different rooms to other people. And what was crazy about this is that he did not have any paperwork showing any authorization to be there, which, by the way, he told the police he didn't have that. All he had was a bill that he had written up to himself for work on the home that, by the way, he did not have any authorization to actually do. And guess what? That was enough, according to the previous set of laws, for the homeowner to be arrested for trying to force this individual out.
Do you see this? This guy just literally broke down my door. broke through myself and my daughter to get in here. This guy just forced himself into my house.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did.
No, he did
And
not.
so did you.
Ma'am.
You broke through the front door.
Officer.
The man called the police on her.
So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't have to leave?
Because technically he can't be kicked out. We need to go to court.
They consider this a landlord-tenant issue, and by law it has to be handled through the housing court, not with police.
If you own this house, you would not want her
I don't own
inside.
the house. I don't own this.
Exactly,
Yes.
she does.
Yes, but then once again, you should know how the law works.
I do know how it works.
There's rules to the as you got to go to court and send me to civil court.
He says he signed a lease in October, but wouldn't tell us with who.
I got proof longer than that.
Show us the proof.
But who are you for me to show? I showed it to cops.
Dan with Channel 7 News. If you don't want to show it, you don't want to show it.
Come here, brother. I like that.
I would like to see it.
He didn't show me a lease.
This is a bill.
A bill for work he says he had done to the house. He didn't show police a lease either.
The police department doesn't have the lease?
No.
He's got no documentation.
Just bills.
And this is because after 30 days, you end up having tenant rights in the city of New York, even if you're a squatter. And this guy, by the way, wasn't even in there for 30 days. But essentially, the time that it would have taken this woman to file the appropriate paperwork and all the delays in housing court would have granted him those 30 days and essentially set her up for a 2+ year fight in order to get this person out of the house.
I have video of you.
Who are these people?
out the situation.
But they're in my house, man.
Relax.
No.
To understand how this day ended,
We need the police right away.
with multiple 911 calls and arrests, we have to start at the beginning.
Adele, the hardest question is how do you say your name?
We met Adele Andaloro outside the home her parents left her in Flushing, Queens. She's in the process of selling it,
No, he locked it.
but she's been locked out. She claimed squatters moved in on February 6th and refused to leave.
What's it like being here knowing you can't go inside of your own home?
It's enraging. It really is.
In New York, squatters have rights after 30 days.
By the time that someone does their investigation and they do their work and their job, we'll be well over the 30 days, and this man will have stolen my home. And now she's back.
Just after wrapping up our interview, a woman showed up.
What are you doing in the house? Are you renting this house? Why are you here?
She unlocked the front door, saw our cameras, and took off.
And of course, he was demanding money. He wanted a settlement. That is a huge component of these particular scams. But in addition to that, because he was renting out the additional rooms, after she ended up settling with Brian Rodriguez, she was going to have the same problem with all these different other various people. And again, she is also required to maintain the power, maintain the water, and of course, a whole host of other things related to this home that obviously it doesn't make sense for her to do. And we've seen these cases before where the homeowner ends up being treated like a slumlord because they can't afford the upkeep of the home. She was trying to sell this property because, again, it's not like she just had an extra home. Her parents passed away and she needed to sell it in order to have the money because she couldn't afford the property taxes and all the other regular maintenance of this property. But all that was taken away from her by this individual who was mockingly talking to the local news and basically flaunting that he was engaging in a scam and saying, look, there's a law, there's a process, I'm taking advantage of this, which just goes to show you how these criminals end up manipulating these laws supposedly meant to protect tenants.
So how does this all end then? When do you leave?
The way it ends is either she pays me my money that I put into the house, pay me the money, and I'll leave, or send me to court, and we deal with the judge in court. It's that simple.
Now look, the Queens District Attorney in this particular case ended up dropping the charges against Adele because obviously she had really done nothing wrong and decided that she was going to charge Brian Rodriguez in his connection with this particular scheme.
The district attorney dropped the charges against her and filed criminal charges against him, which led to this week's plea deal.
At the end of the day, we're making a message very clear. You don't get to walk into a house you don't own and say you have a right to stay. And we're going to make sure that this has a deterrent effect as well, and it will.
But the fact of the matter is, none of this is possible without the coverage and attention because normally these cases just spiral out of control in the courts. Again, we talked about one previously where somebody ended up squatting on a property in 2017. The way that they got into this property was absolutely crazy. They ended up storming the place while a woman was unloading groceries, ended up getting inside. She called the police after he locked this person out of her own property. And guess what? By the time the police came there, he had written his name in magic marker on the mailbox, and thus the police said this was a tenant issue and ended up screwing over that particular person who was renting that apartment, who ended up losing her property in this particular way. And guess what? After 3 years of battling it out in court, we ended up with the eviction moratorium during COVID, and this person was still, at the time that we were talking about this, maybe about 10 months ago, not able to get their own property.
No court case should go 7 years. Why can't you just change the locks?
Oh, I will be arrested instantly.
They turned off the hot water and then reported that they had no hot water. It's a $250 fine per day, up to $15,000, punishable by 5 years in jail.
So here you are. You have to pay the upkeep of the house.
Right. I pay the
and not getting any rent?
I'm not getting any rent, and I'm paying the gas and electric every month.
So it takes years and years and years in order for you to get these people out of your home. But because of the public pressure, because of the public scrutiny, they were able to override this, arrest this individual, pass a new law, and change the way that this stuff works, which is absolutely wonderful. I feel great for Adele, although 10 months is still too long in order to pursue justice. That being said, there were people on the Majority Report that were very upset that people were covering these squatters' issues. They were like, oh my god, we got to go after the landlords because landlords are scumbags, and they were actually defending the right of these scumbags to steal these properties, saying that, oh, these are just slumlords trying to keep a property for themselves just because they paid for it.
So the point here is, like, these are houses that are just left vacant. They're not, nobody's allowed to move in because the people who own it aren't allowed to get enough of a return from the people who would be tenants of it. So they just are left there. And he points out, like, if I have zero interest, and particularly using my platform to say, like, oh, the people that are holding these houses vacant, we should be supporting them. No, absolutely not. Go ahead, Bradley.
And I think it's actually very important for you guys to understand this kind of mindset coming from the left wing, coming from left wing media, because a lot of people say it's a straw man to say that these people are in favor of the criminals. But the fact of the matter is, when the issue is so blatant, so obvious, when those segments are so clear on who is in the wrong and who is in the right, they still take the side of the criminal. They still go after the property owner. And again, in this particular case, these are just people who ended up in a situation where their parents died. They ended up with the property, they were trying to sell it, and of course they got screwed over, but this is somehow the fault of society for not having enough affordable housing, and of course the fault of the property owner and the criminal justice system, not because they arrested the homeowner, aka the wrong person, but because people were calling for them to arrest the right person. It's absolute madness from top to bottom, and again, they produce a whole entire segment condemning people like me, condemning Anna Kasparian in particular for covering this story, and it's just completely immoral, totally wrong, ridiculous, and absurd. But this is where we are in our society. You have left-wing people who are actually embracing criminals, who are actually advocating for these laws to protect people who steal properties, and saying that it's justified because, oh my god, landlords and corporations and all these other ridiculous and absurd things that have nothing to do with the situation at hand.
You know, if the homeowner comes and wants to take it back, they have to go through the legal process. Oh no, but guess what? They'll most likely get it back. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous for anyone who's a working class or middle class, who even owns a single home and no more, to care about this.
Punishable by 5 years in jail.
So here you are. You have to pay the upkeep of the house.
Right. I pay
and not getting any rent?
I'm not getting any rent, and I'm paying the gas and electric every month.
4 stories repeated over and over and over again by irate and often unwitting property owners, worry lines marking their faces, who came to City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino's office desperately seeking help. Hong Chen has spent thousands trying unsuccessfully to get the squatters out of this home in Maspeth. John Sokran using his pension money for expenses on this College Point home he hoped would provide retirement income. And Susan Mascara, who has used up her savings paying for 7 years of upkeep on this Bayside home she inherited from her mother.
I'm in debt. My credit cards are pretty much maxed out.
Like, this is absolutely ridiculous for anyone who's a working class or middle class, who even owns a single home and no more, to care about them.
The idea that your property should be able to be stolen by these criminals, by these thugs, and then you have to spend years and years in order to get them out and eventually pay them off in an extortion scheme should not be viewed as progressive at all whatsoever. But that's how far gone people like those at the Majority Report actually are on this issue. But you know what? This is a good story. We're not going to be bogged down by the left-wing naysayers because we pushed on this issue, it got national attention, and it resulted in a positive change. But there are a great number of other people that are stuck in these squatters cases that have all these issues that they need to face up to, that are still not getting the attention that they deserve, that are definitely in need of an intervention like this, and I will make sure to keep a lookout for them in order to force the change that is needed in order to get these criminal house thieves out of those homes and into a jail cell where they belong. But of course, I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content. Follow me on my social media. Support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about justice for a squatter. Till next time.